Let's start with slavery. Now, I don't care what anyone says, slavery was systemic racism. Period. End of story. There is no way to argue against that. You had an entire economic system built on the backs of black people who were treated as property, not humans. It was written into laws, it was part of the Constitution, it was everywhere. That is the very definition of systemic. And then, after slavery was abolished, what happened? Jim Crow laws. Again, this was systemic racism. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These laws were designed specifically to keep black people as second-class citizens. Separate but equal? Come on, we all know that was a load of bull. It was racism, plain and simple, built right into the system. Now, here's a question for you. When do you think systemic racism ended? Some of you might be thinking, well, it ended when the Civil Rights Act of 1964, right? But let me ask you this. Do you really think centuries of oppression and discrimination just disappeared overnight with the stroke of a pen? That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Systemic racism is like a weed with deep roots. You can't just chop off the top and expect it to be gone. It is ingrained in our institutions, our policies, our unconscious biases. It takes time and effort to dig out those roots. Now let's talk about critical race theory. I know some of you might be rolling your eyes, but hear me out. CRT is not just some random idea someone came up with over a cup of coffee. It's based on sociology, which is a science. And in science, you don't get to call something a theory unless you've got mountains of evidence to back it up. We're talking thousands of facts, years of research, and rigorous peer review. It's not just some half-baked notion. And here's something else to chew on. Do you know how many civil rights laws we've passed since the first Civil Rights Act? Since 1964, we have passed at least 8 major pieces of civil rights legislation that deal with race, including the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, the Civil Rights Act of 1991, and most recently, the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act of 2022. But why do you think we needed all of these laws? Because the first one did not magically fix everything. The point is, systemic racism did not end in 1964. It did not end in 1968 or 1991 or 2022. And if we're being honest with ourselves, it has not ended yet. We're still working on it. We're still passing laws, still fighting court battles, and still trying to level the playing field. So the next time someone tries to tell you that systemic racism is not real or that it ended decades ago, remember this. Change does not happen overnight. It is a long, hard process. But if we acknowledge the problem, if we keep working at it, we can make things better. It's on all of us to keep pushing for that change, to keep learning, to keep growing, because that is the only way we're ever going to create a truly equal society.